I stood in Robert's old office, breathing in the faint smell of sawdust and machine oil that still clung to everything. My husband had been gone for 8 months, but this room felt like he might walk through the door any second. His coffee mug sat on the desk, a faint ring stained inside. His reading glasses lay folded beside a stack of papers he never got to sign. I wasn't supposed to be here this late. The factory floor below had gone quiet an hour ago, the last worker clocking out with a friendly wave. But I needed this, needed to feel close to Robert again, even if it hurt. My eyes landed on the old audio recorder he used for business notes. Robert hated typing, so he'd record reminders to himself. I picked it up, my fingers trembling slightly. Maybe I could hear his voice one more time and capture some small piece of him. I pressed play. But the voice that filled the room wasn't my husband's. It was my son-in-law, Trevor. And the recording was crystal clear, recent, not old. The sentimental value is 0, Trevor said, his tone flat and businesslike. It's just a business. Let's lowball the initial offer. My wife won't know the difference. My blood turned to ice. I gripped the edge of the desk, my knees suddenly weak. Trevor laughed on the recording. I'll have the full inventory list and financials for you by Friday. The recorder slipped from my hand and clattered onto the desk. My whole world had just shattered. I forced myself to breathe slowly, to think clearly. I couldn't panic. I needed to understand what was happening before I acted. That night, I barely slept. I replayed that recording in my mind 100 times, each word cutting deeper. By morning, I had made a decision. I would act normal. I would watch, listen, and gather information. If Trevor was planning something, I needed to know every detail before confronting him. That Sunday, we had our usual family dinner at my house. My daughter, Nicole, arrived with Trevor, both smiling and relaxed. Nicole looked beautiful as always, her long hair pulled back, her face glowing with what I'd always thought was happiness. Now, I wondered what else I'd been blind to. Trevor shook my hand warmly, calling me Mom like he always did. I wanted to recoil, but I smiled instead. During dinner, Trevor cleared his throat importantly. I've been working hard to streamline the business, he announced, cutting into his roast beef. There's a lot of dead weight we need to cut. Some of these old employees have been coasting for years. I felt my jaw tighten. Those old employees had worked beside Robert for decades. They were family. Nicole nodded supportively. Trevor's been under so much pressure, Mom. He's doing an amazing job. Trevor patted her hand condescendingly. Don't you worry your pretty little head about it, sweetheart. I've got everything under control. Then he smiled at me. Actually, I've got a potential investor interested. A man named Mr. Sterling. Meeting him next week. The next morning, I went back to Robert's office. I needed to know more. I searched through the recorder's memory and found dozens of recent recordings. Trevor had been using it for his calls, probably thinking no one would check an old man's dusty machine. I began listening to them all, my notepad filling with names, dates, and damning details. Each recording made my hands shake with fresh anger. But I couldn't let emotion cloud my judgment. Robert had always said, evidence first, action second. I needed help. I needed someone I could trust completely. I called Jamie, the factory foreman who'd worked with Robert for 30 years. He arrived within the hour, his weathered face concerned. What's wrong, Mrs. Patterson? He asked, closing the office door behind him. I played him one of the recordings. Jamie's expression darkened. That son of a... He caught himself. What do you need me to do? I need you to keep a second set of books, I said quietly. Real numbers, real contracts. And I need you to document everything Trevor orders. Can you do that without him knowing? Jamie nodded firmly. Robert would have done the same. I'm with you. 2 days later, Jamie confirmed my worst fears. He's been canceling contracts, Mrs. Patterson.
Long-standing client.
Claims it's operational changes, but it's sabotage. He's deliberately hurting the business. I spent the next week listening to every recording I could find. The picture that emerged was uglier than I'd imagined. Trevor wasn't just selling the business. He was intentionally destroying it first. In one call, He laughed about how he was creating fake losses, inflating expenses, and turning away profitable jobs. "We need the books to look terrible," he told someone. "That way, Sterling won't question the fire sale price." In another, he complained about Nicole. "She's clueless about money. I told her the business is struggling, and she actually believed me. Women, right?" The cruelty in his voice made me sick. My daughter trusted him completely, and he was mocking her behind her back. But the worst recording came on Thursday. "The big meeting is set for 3 weeks from today," Trevor said. "That's when we'll sign everything. Sterling will transfer the funds, I'll pay off my debts, and we'll be free of this dump. My wife thinks we're just restructuring, so she won't interfere." I sat back in Robert's chair, my mind racing. 3 weeks. That's all the time I had to stop him. I closed my eyes and thought of my husband. Robert had built this business from nothing, working 18-hour days, sacrificing everything to create something meaningful. And Trevor wanted to burn it all down for quick cash. "I won't let him," I whispered to the empty room. "I promise you, Robert. I won't let him destroy what you built." I needed legal help, and I knew exactly who to call. Margaret Chin had been Robert's lawyer and friend for 25 years. She was brilliant, fierce, and completely trustworthy. I met her at her office downtown, a small recording device tucked in my purse. After the secretary brought us coffee and closed the door, I explained everything. Margaret listened, her sharp eyes never leaving my face. When I finished, I played her a snippet of the recordings. She leaned back, fingers steepled. "In our state, recording calls is legal if one party consents. Since you own the business and the property where these recordings occurred, you're on solid legal ground." "Can we stop him?" I asked. "Absolutely. But we need more evidence first. We need to know exactly what he's planning." She paused, then leaned forward. "Mrs. Patterson, I need to tell you something. I did some preliminary research after you called. Trevor has already had sale papers drawn up, and according to the terms he's outlined, Nicole would be left with almost nothing. He's claiming massive business debts that don't actually exist." My hands clenched into fists. "He's stealing from my daughter." "Yes," Margaret said simply. "And we're going to stop him. But we need to be smart about this. No confrontation yet. Just evidence." I nodded, feeling a cold determination settle over me. Trevor had made a terrible mistake. He'd underestimated the quiet widow in the background. That was going to cost him everything. That weekend, I invited Nicole for lunch, just the two of us. We sat in my kitchen, the same place where I'd taught her to bake cookies as a little girl. Now, I had to figure out how to warn her without revealing too much too soon. "How are things, sweetheart?" I asked, pouring tea. "Really, how are things with Trevor?" Nicole smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "They're good, Mom. He's just been stressed with the business." "Are you involved in the business decisions?" I asked carefully. She shook her head. "Trevor handles all that. He says I don't need to worry about the complicated stuff." My heart ached. My daughter was smart and capable, but Trevor had convinced her to step back, to trust him blindly. "Do you feel happy?" I pressed gently. Nicole hesitated, and in that pause, I saw doubt flicker across her face. But then she straightened. "Of course, Mom. Trevor's under a lot of pressure. I need to support him." I wanted to shake her, to tell her everything right then. But Margaret's advice rang in my ears. "Not yet. More evidence first." As Nicole was leaving, she mentioned casually, "Oh, Trevor needs me to sign some papers this week. Financial restructuring or something. He says it's routine." Every instinct screamed at me to stop her. "Maybe you should have someone look at them first," I suggested. "Just to be safe." She laughed. "Mom, I trust my husband." Those words haunted me all night. Jamie and I began working in secret, undoing Trevor's sabotage from the shadows. When Trevor canceled a contract, Jamie would call the client privately, apologize for the miscommunication, and secure the deal again. When Trevor inflated expenses, Jamie kept the real numbers in his hidden ledger. We were careful, operating only when Trevor wasn't around. We reassured key clients, restored supply orders, and quietly stabilized what Trevor was trying to destroy. It was exhausting, but it was working. One afternoon, I was in the back office when I heard Trevor on the phone, his voice sharp with frustration. "I don't understand it," he snapped. "Deals I personally killed are coming back to life. It's like the place is haunted." He paused, listening. "No, I'm handling it. Just give me more time." Jamie caught my eye from across the room and grinned. We were getting to him, but I knew we were walking a dangerous line. If Trevor figured out what we were doing too soon, he might accelerate his plans. We needed to keep him confident, keep him thinking he was winning. That night, I recorded a message for myself. Stay calm. Stay focused. 3 more weeks. I was counting down the days until the meeting with Mr. Sterling, the day when I'd finally spring my trap. Margaret called me urgently the next week. "We need to meet. Now." I drove to her office, my heart pounding. She closed the door and handed me a thick folder. "I had an investigator look into Trevor's finances," she said. "Mrs. Patterson, your son-in-law has massive gambling debts. Over $200,000. I stared at the papers, stunned. "That's not all," Margaret continued. "He's taken out several high-interest loans. And look at these signatures." She pointed to documents. He forged Nicole's signature on 3 different loan applications. My vision blurred with rage. "He forged my daughter's name?" "Yes. And there's more." She pulled out another paper. "He's applied for a second mortgage on Nicole's house. It's pending approval right now. If it goes through, he could take out another $100,000, all in her name." I felt sick. Trevor wasn't just betraying my daughter emotionally. He was destroying her financially, burying her in debt she didn't even know about. "Can we stop the mortgage?" I asked. "I've already filed an objection, claiming potential fraud. That'll buy us time." Margaret looked at me seriously. "But Mrs. Patterson, this changes everything. We're not just talking about a business sale anymore. This is identity theft, forgery, fraud. Trevor could go to prison." "Good," I said coldly. "He deserves it. I did something risky. I arranged a secret meeting with Mr. Sterling himself. His assistant was suspicious at first, but when I identified myself as a majority silent partner in the business Trevor is selling, he agreed to meet. Mr. Sterling was a heavy-set man in his 60s, with calculating eyes and an expensive suit. We met in a private room at a downtown hotel. "Mrs. Patterson," he said, shaking my hand. "I admit, I'm surprised. Trevor never mentioned you." "I'm sure he didn't," I said. I set the recorder on the table between us. "Mr. Sterling, before you proceed with this deal, I think you should hear something." I played him the recording where Trevor bragged about sabotaging the business to drive down the price. Mr. Sterling's face turned purple. That little, he caught himself, jaw clenched. "He's been lying to me, telling me the business is failing naturally." "He's been lying to everyone," I said, "including his wife." Mr. Sterling sat back, fury radiating from him. "I don't appreciate being played for a fool, Mrs. Patterson." "Then help me stop him," I said. "Pretend the deal is still on. Come to the signing meeting, and when the time is right, we'll expose him together." He studied me for a long moment, then extended his hand. "You've got yourself a deal, ma'am. Let's take this con man down." I shook his hand, feeling a grim satisfaction. The trap was almost ready. Everything was falling into place. Margaret finalized the legal strategy. Jamie secured all the evidence we needed. Mr. Sterling agreed to play along. All the pieces were on the board. We planned the final confrontation carefully. We would let Trevor think he'd won, let him walk into that signing meeting confident and unsuspecting. And then, in front of everyone, we'd reveal the truth. Margaret warned me, "It's going to be brutal, Mrs. Patterson. Your daughter will be devastated." "I know," I said quietly. "But better she learns the truth now than after he's destroyed her life completely." 2 days before the meeting, Trevor came home beaming. I happened to be visiting Nicole that evening, and I watched him swagger into the kitchen. "Guess what, ladies?" he said, grinning. "The deal is done. We're signing in 2 days." This is the beginning of our new life. Nicole hugged him, happy for him, completely unaware she was embracing a snake. Trevor looked at me over her shoulder, his eyes triumphant. He thought he'd won. He thought I was just a grieving old widow who'd never suspect a thing. I smiled back at him, letting him think exactly that. That's wonderful, Trevor, I said sweetly. I'm so proud of you. The day before the meeting, I watched Trevor pack up Robert's office. He was boxing up my husband's belongings like they were trash, tossing photographs and awards into cardboard boxes without a second glance. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, a calm smile on my face. Getting ready for tomorrow? I asked. He didn't even look up. Yeah. Fresh start, you know? This old place has too much history. Time to move forward. I wanted to tell him that history was the only thing that mattered, that the people who built this business deserved respect. But I just nodded. I'm sure Robert would be proud. He laughed. Robert was stuck in the past. This business needs modern thinking. I left before I said something I'd regret. That evening, Nicole called me, her voice anxious. Mom, something feels wrong, she said. Trevor's been acting strange. Secretive. Do you think everything's okay? Tomorrow we'll answer all your questions, sweetheart, I told her. Just trust me. After we hung up, I sat in my living room, Robert's photo on the mantel watching over me. Tomorrow, I whispered to him. Tomorrow, I keep my promise. I barely slept that night. I kept rehearsing what I would say, how I would reveal the truth. I was terrified but determined. Trevor had underestimated me. That was his fatal mistake. The conference room felt too small for all the tension it held. Trevor arrived first, wearing his best suit, practically bouncing with confidence. Mr. Sterling came next, playing his part perfectly, greeting Trevor warmly. Margaret arrived as Nicole's legal counsel, though Nicole didn't know Margaret was really working for me. Nicole came in looking nervous, sensing something was off but not understanding what. She kept glancing at Trevor, seeking reassurance. I arrived last, positioning myself near the door. I hope you don't mind, I said. I wanted to be here for moral support. Trevor barely glanced at me. Of course, Mom. The more the merrier. Everyone took their seats around the large oak table. Mr. Sterling's lawyers spread out documents. Trevor rubbed his hands together eagerly. Let's get this done, Trevor said, sliding the contract across the table toward Nicole. Sweetheart, just sign here, here, and here. Nicole picked up the pen, her hand hovering over the paper. That's when I spoke. Before she signs anything, I said calmly, I have a few questions. Trevor's smile tightened. Mom, this really isn't the time. I think it is, I interrupted. I looked at Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling, what exactly did Trevor tell you about the business's financial state? Mr. Sterling, playing along beautifully, consulted his notes. He said the business was failing, losing money for months. That's why the price was so low. I nodded. Interesting. Trevor, is that true? Trevor shifted uncomfortably. Well, yes. The business has been struggling. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. I repeated. I pulled out Jamie's real financial ledgers and set them on the table. Because according to these actual numbers, the business is quite profitable. In fact, we've had our best quarter in 5 years. Trevor's face went pale. Those numbers are... you're reading them wrong. I don't think so, I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out Robert's old audio recorder. The sight of it made Trevor freeze. What is that? Nicole asked, confused. Your father's old recorder, I told her. Trevor's been using it for his business calls. I placed it in the center of the table. And I've been listening. The room went silent. Trevor's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. I pressed play. Trevor's voice filled the room, cold and calculating. The sentimental value is 0. It's just a business. Let's lowball the initial offer. My wife won't know the difference. Nicole's face drained of color. She looked at Trevor, then at me, then back at Trevor. What is that? Wait, Trevor stammered. That's just business talk. You're taking it out of context. I smiled. Oh, this is just the beginning. I fast-forwarded to another clip. Trevor's recorded voice continued. Sterling's an idiot. He believes everything I tell him. I'll walk away with at least $400,000 after I pay my debts. Mr. Sterling's jaw clenched. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, staring daggers at Trevor. I played another clip. My wife's clueless about money. I told her the business is struggling, and she actually believed me. Women, right? Nicole's hands were shaking. Tears welled in her eyes. Stop, Trevor said, his voice desperate. Just stop. But I didn't stop. I played the clip where he discussed forging her signature. The loan applications were easy. Her signature's simple. She'll never even know I borrowed against the house. Nicole stood up so fast her chair fell over backward. You forged my signature? Her voice cracked. You took out loans in my name? Sweetheart, I can explain. Trevor reached for her. She jerked away from him like he was poison. Don't touch me. I looked at my daughter, my heart breaking for her pain but proud of her strength. There's more, Nicole. He applied for a second mortgage on your house. $200,000 in your name. Nicole's face went from pale to red. My house? The house my father helped me buy. Trevor stood up, panic replacing his earlier confidence. You don't understand. I had debts. Bad investments. I was trying to fix things. By stealing from your wife. Mr. Sterling interjected coldly. By defrauding me? I played more recordings. Trevor badmouthing the loyal employees, calling them dead weight. Trevor laughing about canceling long-standing contracts. Trevor mocking Robert's legacy, calling him stuck in the past. With each clip, Nicole's expression hardened. The hurt was still there, but now fury was mixing with it. When I finally stopped the recordings, the silence was deafening. Nicole spoke, her voice shaking but strong. Was any of it real, Trevor? Did you ever love me? Or was I just convenient? Trevor's mask finally cracked. Of course I loved you. But you don't understand the pressure I was under. The debts, the expectations. So, you decided to steal from me? Nicole grabbed a contract and tore it in half, the sound sharp and final. You decided to destroy my father's business? To mock my mother? Your father's business was outdated. Trevor shouted, his true nature finally showing. It was dragging us down. I was trying to save us. By burying me in debt I didn't even know about. Nicole's voice rose. By forging my name? By lying to everyone. You should be thanking me, Trevor yelled. I was the only one willing to make hard choices. Your mother's been sabotaging me, turning you against me. Nicole looked at him with pure contempt. No, Trevor. You did that all by yourself. Margaret stood up, her voice crisp and professional. Mr. Trevor Walsh, I represent Mrs. Nicole Walsh and Mrs. Patricia Patterson. We have evidence of fraud, forgery, and identity theft. She laid out documents on the table. These are copies of the loan applications with forged signatures. These are recordings proving premeditated fraud. And these are affidavits from employees documenting your sabotage of the business. Trevor's arrogance was completely gone. He looked around the room desperately, like a trapped animal. We will be pressing criminal charges, Margaret continued, unless you agree to our terms immediately. What terms? Trevor asked, his voice barely a whisper. You will sign a post-nuptial agreement surrendering all claims to the business, the house, and any shared assets. You will agree to an immediate divorce. You will accept full responsibility for all debts you incurred, including the forged loans. And you will leave this family alone forever. Trevor looked at Nicole, searching for some sympathy. Nicole, please. We can work through this. Nicole's voice was ice. Sign the papers, Trevor. But sign them or go to jail. Those are your choices. Trevor turned to me, trying a different approach. Mom, please. I made mistakes, but we're family. I cut him off with a look that could freeze fire. My husband would have destroyed you for what you've done. I'm being merciful by giving you any choice at all. Margaret pushed the papers across the table. Sign here, here, and here. Trevor's hands shook as he picked up the pen. He looked at the documents, reading through the terms. Every signature would strip him of everything he'd tried to steal. If I sign these, I have nothing, he said. You'll have your freedom, Margaret replied. That's more than you deserve. Mr. Sterling spoke up. Sign them, Walsh. Because if this goes to trial, I'll personally make sure every business contact you have knows what you tried to do to me. You'll never work in this industry again. Trevor's jaw clenched. He was beaten and he knew it. Slowly, he signed each document, his signature angry and sharp. When he finished, Margaret collected the papers. Security will escort you out. You have 48 hours to remove your personal belongings from the marital home. After that, anything left will be disposed of. As if on cue, Jamie and another employee appeared at the door. They'd been waiting in the hallway. Trevor stood up, trying to salvage some dignity. But as he walked toward the door, he stopped and turned back. You think you've won? He snarled, looking at me. This isn't over. I met his eyes calmly. Yes, Trevor. It is. Jamie and the other employee escorted him out. We heard his footsteps fade down the hallway. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Nicole collapsed into her chair, putting her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook with sobs. I went to her immediately, pulling her into my arms.
I'm sorry, sweetheart.
I'm so sorry. How long did you know? She asked between sobs. A few weeks. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I needed evidence first. I needed to make sure he couldn't hurt you anymore. She clung to me, crying for the marriage she'd thought she had, for the man she'd thought Trevor was. I held her, letting her grieve, my own tears falling into her hair. Mr. Sterling stood up quietly. Mrs. Patterson, I'll be in touch. I'm still interested in partnering with you, the legitimate way this time. Thank you, Mr. Sterling, I said. I appreciate your help today. He nodded and left with his lawyer, giving us privacy. Margaret packed up her briefcase. I'll file these documents today. The divorce proceedings will begin immediately. Mrs. Walsh, I'm sorry you had to go through this. Nicole looked up, her face blotchy and wet. Thank you. Thank you for helping my mom. When Margaret left, it was just mother and daughter in the quiet conference room. I should have seen it, Nicole said. All the signs were there. He was good at hiding it, I told her. That's not your fault. We sat together for a long time, not saying much, just being there for each other. Finally, Jamie knocked on the door. Mrs. Patterson? We have a problem. Jamie's face was grim. Trevor wiped the main server before he left. All our customer data, all our financial records, everything digital is gone. My heart sank. That vindictive, petty man had tried one last act of sabotage. Nicole stood up, wiping her eyes. He destroyed everything. He tried to, I said, looking at Jamie. But we planned for this, didn't we? Jamie's worried expression transformed into a grin. Yes, ma'am, we did. I turned to Nicole. When I first suspected something was wrong, I had Jamie keep a second set of books. Physical copies. Real numbers. And we backed up all the essential data to an external drive every single day. Jamie pulled out a thick binder from his bag. Right here. Every contract, every client, every invoice. He didn't destroy anything that mattered. Nicole looked between us, amazed. You thought of everything. Your father taught me to always have a backup plan, I said. And Trevor underestimated us one too many times. We spent the rest of the afternoon restoring what Trevor had tried to destroy. It was tedious work, but by evening, the system was back online. Our clients would never even know there'd been a problem. As the sun set, Nicole and I stood in Robert's office, my office now. What happens next? Nicole asked. We will rebuild, I said, together. The next few months were hard. Nicole moved back home with me temporarily, while the divorce proceedings moved forward. Some days she was strong, throwing herself into learning the business. Other days she cried over what she'd lost, or rather, what she'd thought she had. I officially came out of retirement, not to run the business alone, but to teach Nicole everything Robert had taught me. We worked side by side, and I watched her grow from a heartbroken young woman into a confident leader. She had a natural gift for people, something Trevor had tried to suppress. Employees loved her. Clients trusted her. Within 3 months, she'd expanded our contracts and brought in new business. One Tuesday morning, Nicole came into the office looking serious. "Mom, we've been served with papers." My stomach dropped. "What kind of papers?" "Trevor is contesting the divorce settlement. He's claiming he signed under duress and wants half of everything." I felt rage bubble up. After everything he was still trying to take from us. "Let him try," I said coldly. "We have recordings, evidence, witnesses. Let him try." Margaret confirmed what I already knew. He has no case. This is a desperation move. The hearing is in 2 weeks. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Trevor sat with a cheap lawyer who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. We sat across from them with Margaret, confident in our case. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, reviewed the evidence. We played the recordings again. We showed the forged documents. We presented affidavits from Jamie, from Mr. Sterling, from the employees Trevor had tried to cheat. Trevor's lawyer tried to argue that the recordings were inadmissible, that Trevor had been under stress, that the post-nuptial agreement was signed under pressure. But every argument fell flat. The judge looked at Trevor with obvious distaste. "Mr. Walsh, I've reviewed all the evidence. Not only do I find no merit in your contest, but I'm appalled by your conduct." Trevor opened his mouth to speak, but she held up a hand. "I'm upholding the original agreement in its entirety. Furthermore, I'm awarding Mrs. Nicole Walsh full ownership of the marital home and placing a lien on your future earnings to repay the loans you fraudulently obtained in her name." Trevor's face went red. "Your Honor, that's not fair." "What's not fair, Mr. Walsh, is defrauding your wife and her family. This case is closed." The gavel came down with a sharp crack. 1 year later, everything had changed. Patterson Manufacturing was thriving like never before. Nicole had transformed it, keeping the best of Robert's legacy while bringing fresh ideas. We'd hired new people, expanded into new markets, and our reputation in the industry was stronger than ever. The community had rallied around us. When whispers of what Trevor had done spread, our local clients made a point of increasing their orders. They wanted to support us, to show that loyalty and integrity still mattered. Nicole had blossomed into a CEO I knew Robert would be proud of. She was confident, fair, and brilliant. She'd inherited her father's work ethic and added her own vision. One afternoon, as we reviewed quarterly reports showing record profits, Nicole looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Dad would be so proud of us," she said. "He is," I told her. "I feel it every day." My phone rang. It was a reporter from the local newspaper. "Mrs. Patterson, we'd love to do a feature on you and your daughter. The mother-daughter team revitalizing a local landmark. Would you be interested?" I looked at Nicole, who nodded enthusiastically. "Yes," I said. "We'd be honored." That evening, I found myself back in Robert's office. It was mine now, ours really, since Nicole and I shared everything. But it still smelled like him, still felt like him. I picked up his old audio recorder, the device that had started everything. I ran my fingers over the worn buttons, remembering that night when I'd first pressed play and heard Trevor's betrayal. So much had changed since then. Nicole was free, the business was safe, and Trevor was nothing but a bad memory. I pressed the record button one last time. "Hello, my love," I said softly. "I know you're listening somewhere. I just wanted to tell you that our daughter is safe. The business is safe. I kept my promise, Robert. I protected our family." My voice caught. "Nicole is everything you hoped she'd be. She's strong, smart, and kind. She's running the company better than I ever could. You'd be so proud." I wiped away a tear. "I miss you every single day. But I don't feel alone anymore. I feel your presence in every corner of this building, in every decision we make. You built something that couldn't be destroyed, not by Trevor, not by anyone. I paused, listening to the quiet hum of the factory floor below. The legacy is secure, my love. Our family is whole again. And I can finally rest knowing that everything you worked for, everything you believed in, lives on. I pressed stop and set the recorder down gently. A few weeks later, we held a celebration at the factory. All the employees came, along with their families. We had food, music, and laughter echoing through the building where Robert had spent so much of his life. Jamie gave a speech about loyalty and second chances. Nicole spoke about the importance of family and community. When it was my turn, I stood before everyone, my voice steady. A year ago, I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. My husband was gone. My family was in danger. And I felt powerless to stop it. People listened quietly. But I learned something important. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous. Sometimes the grieving widow is actually gathering evidence. And sometimes, the people who underestimate you give you the greatest advantage. There was knowing laughter from those who'd heard about Trevor. Robert built this place with his hands and his heart. And he built it to last. Trevor thought he could tear it down in a few months. But he forgot one thing. This business isn't just walls and machines. It's people. It's community. It's family. I raised my glass. To Robert, who taught us that legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what lives on in the people you love. To Robert. Everyone cheered. Late that night, after everyone had gone home, I stood alone in the factory. Moonlight streamed through the high windows, casting long shadows across the floor. This building had witnessed so much: triumph, betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately justice. I thought about Trevor sometimes. Not with anger anymore, but with a kind of distant pity. He'd had everything: a loving wife, a successful business, a family who cared about him. And he'd thrown it all away for money and ego. Nicole had moved into her own place, a small house near mine. She was dating again, cautious but hopeful. She'd learned hard lessons about trust, but they hadn't made her bitter. If anything, she was stronger for it. As for me, I'd discovered something about myself. I'd spent so much of my marriage supporting Robert, being the quiet partner in the background. I'd thought that after he died, my purpose died too. But I was wrong. I'd found my own strength. I'd protected my family. I'd outsmarted someone who thought I was just a harmless old woman. And I'd proven that underestimating people based on their grief or their quietness was a fatal mistake. I walked to Robert's desk, my desk, and opened the bottom drawer. Inside was the audio recorder, now silent. I'd kept every recording, stored safely with Margaret in case we ever needed them again. But I hoped we never would. Next to the recorder was a framed photo of Robert and me on our wedding day, both of us young and full of dreams. He was looking at the camera, but I was looking at him, smiling like I'd won the lottery. "We did it," I whispered to the photo. "We protected what you built. Nicole's going to carry it forward, make it even better. You can rest now." I felt a strange sense of peace settle over me. The battle was over. The family was safe. The business was thriving. And Robert's legacy, the real legacy of integrity, loyalty, and love, would continue for generations. I turned off the lights and locked the office door behind me. As I walked through the quiet factory, I ran my hand along the machinery, feeling the smooth metal under my fingers. These machines had run for decades under Robert's care. Now they'd run for decades more under Nicole's. Outside, the night air was cool and fresh. I looked up at the stars, scattered across the dark sky like diamonds. "Thank you," I said quietly, not sure if I was talking to Robert, to God, or to the universe itself. "Thank you for giving me the strength when I needed it most." I got in my car and drove home, the factory growing smaller in my rearview mirror. But I wasn't leaving it behind. I'd be back tomorrow, and the day after that, working beside my daughter, building something that would outlast us both. Trevor had tried to destroy us. Instead, he'd forged us into something stronger. He'd wanted to erase Robert's legacy. Instead, he'd guaranteed it would never be forgotten. As I pulled into my driveway, I realized something important. Revenge wasn't about destroying your enemies. It was about surviving them, outlasting them, and building something so strong that their betrayal became nothing more than a footnote in your story. I walked into my house, turned on the lights, and made myself a cup of tea. On the kitchen table was a blueprint Nicole had drawn up, plans for expanding the factory, for hiring more people, for reaching new markets. I smiled, tracing the lines with my finger. This was Robert's dream, continuing to grow. This was our family story, still being written. And somewhere, I like to think, Robert was watching. Proud of his daughter. Proud of me. Proud that his life's work hadn't ended with him. It had only just begun its next chapter. I picked up my phone and sent Nicole a text. Love you, sweetheart. Your dad would be so proud of you. Her response came immediately. Love you too, Mom. Thank you for everything. I set the phone down and sat in the quiet of my kitchen, sipping my tea, feeling more content than I had in years. The storm had passed. The family was whole. And the legacy, the real, unshakable legacy of love and integrity, was secure. That was all that mattered. That was everything.